Oh, yeah, man.
Get back into it.
Terry O'Reilly, the Tasmanian Devil, man.
He wasn't the biggest guy.
But he feared no one.
Didn't he try and take his skate off and try and stab someone, or no?
I think that was a different guy.
Okay, fair enough. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm sitting here, Dom DiTolla, alongside my co-host, Chris Quinn. How we doing today, Chris?
Oh, man, we're doing good. We're going to be releasing this on video. You're going to see us.
Yeah,
you're going to hear us, and you're going to enjoy it.
Yes, you are. And this is a special treat for everyone involved. We're starting a new block series today.
Yes,
right?
we are.
Yes, we are.
Fans behaving badly.
Fans behaving badly.
And this first one is such an iconic one. We're going with the shoe brawl. We're going with Rangers versus Bruins, but really, it was Bruins versus Rangers fans.
Yeah,
so
the Rangers were kind of a third party in all of this nonsense. Once the final gun sounded,
they were involved, but
Yeah.
like we were saying pre-podcast, they literally just kind of stood there like, well, we can't really do anything. We can't fight our own fans.
Oh,
We can't
would you
fight
look
the
at that?
Bruins now. So it's just like, yeah, they literally just like line up and watch the madness happen. So.
Oh, they totally do. And why wouldn't you want to watch it? Because some cool shit,
Yeah.
disturbing shit takes place, and some people get their comeuppance, if you ask me. But let's hit that DeLorean up to 88, back to December 23rd, 1979, Festivus of 1979.
And when you brought that up, I thought it was such a great point to make because they really go through Festivus and all of its joy.
There's the feats of strength. There's the airing of the grievances. There's looking at a pole in the front yard. Probably not that part, but the first two definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
But the Bruins are a good team, right? In this year.
yeah, the Bruins are, and this is kind of the 70s, like kind of like the last era of like big goon hockey.
No helmet hockey.
Yeah, like just badass dudes fighting each other. Like this is Broad Street Bullies era type stuff. This is where, in that conference, the rivalry between the Rangers and Bruins, Canadiens, awesome.
Yes.
Just awesome.
And the games are, I wouldn't say more violent, but they were more violent, but there was definitely...
There's a level of physicality. It's like comparing the NBA now to like the NBA of the Bad Boys era.
Exactly.
You could get away with more.
Exactly. It was just a more physical sport. More emphasis was put on that. And we see these teams really going at each other. And this is a really good game. So
No, it's a really good game between two really good teams, two original six rivals.
Yep.
And the Big Bad Bruins, what did they have? 5 guys on their team who had over 100 penalty minutes that year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
led by the Tasmanian Devil.
That's what they were known for, as a rough team that would really get into your shit. And they took it to the Rangers. Actually, I saw the Rangers were up 2 goals in this game.
They were, yeah.
The Bruins come back 4-3. Just to hop right into it, man.
Yeah, well, they were up by 2 goals actually in the third period, and the Bruins came all the way back. And mind you, this game is being played at Madison Square Garden, where the Rangers have played for a very long time.
Yep.
And New York, Boston, it's rivalry and everything. So when you lose a game like that, and the game was kind of chippy itself, like I believe Stan Jonathan and Al Secord were really going after Ulf Nielsen, who was one of the Rangers' best players. He was the guy we talked about in the WHA episode.
Yes, and I didn't really understand this, but I guess refs kind of favored North American players, so Canadian American.
They swallowed their whistles against those European Nancies, I guess is what they thought.
Well, there was a lot of talk about that, and they felt like there was some cheap hits and some cheap shots on them.
But that's what Boston of that era always did.
Yes.
I mean, that was like they get in your head, and then you realize, shit, we're down 3 goals. What happened?
Yeah, they really get you playing angry and, like you said, get into your head. So that's what they did, and the game to end it out, I mean, it's right at the end of the game. It's 4-3, and the Rangers, I mean,
Phil Esposito is on like a breakaway, and he just gets kind of tripped up, doesn't make it. You know?
Well, yeah, he's on a breakaway from like the blue line. Like it is like nobody in him gets stuffed by the goalie and then proceeds to break his stick and walk straight into the locker room, which is one of the funnier things because he has to be so unbelievably angry at that point.
Yeah.
And then as their teams are heading into the locker room, Nielsen sucker punches, or maybe it was somebody else. Sorry. I'm trying to look this up real quick. No, Secord actually tripped
Secord
Nielsen.
goes after him.
Yes,
That's
because Nielsen had sucker punched him earlier in the game. That's what he said. He said in the second, he kind of sucker punched him. And he's like, well, I'm not going to let him get off the ice without that. So Secord went after him, and then the goalie for the Rangers went after him, and there was like a scuffle, which isn't uncommon, especially for the era, that two teams would kind of get heated after it, and then they would kind of be on the ice talking shit and kind of leave, or a fight would break out, and then they would kind of leave. So this isn't like uncommon.
Yeah, the Rangers goalie was John Davidson, so he goes after Secord, and you're thinking, okay, well, this is a post-game brawl between the two teams.
Exactly.
That doesn't happen.
Well, at this point, I want to say this, because Phil Esposito leaves the ice, but so does Mike Milbury.
Mike Milbury goes in with Gary Cheevers, I believe, into the Bruins locker room. Milbury has even said, like, we won, and it's going to be Christmas.
Well,
I can finally relax.
It's fucking hilarious because he was like, it was such a different time in hockey. They met me with my cigarette. I lit my cigarette, and I was like, whew, vacation time. Christmas, I'm done. And then he says he turns around, and he goes, where is everybody?
This turns into a Die Hard Christmas, if you think about it. It really does.
And that's the thing that gets him back on the ice is he was just... They were like, yeah, there's beef back on the ice. And at this point, you don't think anything with the fans. You just think, yeah, the Rangers are going to want to fight, and we might have to go back out there.
Stan Jonathan is on the bench for the Bruins, and something kind of happens from none of the Rangers.
No, well, that's the thing is they start going over towards the... And I think it was like, because they said, I think it was like the 8th Street side or something like that.
Yeah.
Of the rink.
Yeah.
And literally a fan, because this is the other thing, was the glass didn't go up as high as it does now. No. There was a thing that you could walk on to essentially be...
You could like hop over the glass if you really wanted to do it. I mean, like the way hockey arenas or just arenas in general, because you're not dealing with state-of-the-art shit at this juncture in sports history, you had a lot more close access to fans than you do nowadays.
So we get this fan, and I believe his name was Captain. Did you see his name?
That was a different guy.
That was a different guy?
I believe it. Yeah, because he was the one that was even further in the stands.
Okay, he's the one that gets, okay.
Yeah.
So there's this guy, he rolls up his program, and I don't know if you have ever seen a program, but that's some thick National Geographic type paper, man.
Yeah, this isn't like newspaper. This is like, yearbook paper.
Yeah,
in like
that's a good
kind of a harder coating. Not as much as a yearbook, but like still pretty good.
And he rolls it up and pretty much has a baton and hits it. This is what I find, because I watched the video and it's not great video, but he hits the stand so hard that he busts his eye open. And he was talking about it. He was just like, it was such a, because I thought we were about to fight with the Rangers.
Yeah.
Like he was like, I was ready for that. And then out of nowhere, I felt like something came and struck me in the face. So I was like, what is happening? So he puts his stick up to like try and defend himself. And then this fan, I'm going to use that lightly, grabs the stick out of his hands and starts trying to hit other Bruins players. So he was really trying to get the brawl going. I mean...
And that's not a team you want to mess with either, because Terry O'Reilly immediately climbs up from the glass into the crowd.
There is this reaction from Terry O'Reilly that is so great because it happens pretty quick. This guy grabs his stick and you're just like... And all the Bruins are like right there, like kind of like, what's happening? And as they're still like, what happening? O'Reilly's already in there, like pretty much beating the shit out of this guy.
I got a sock full of pennies. Who wants it?
Yep.
Who wants it?
And then we see essentially every other Bruin jump into the audience.
Milbury talks about, because he came back from like the locker room, right? And he's like, oh, okay, well, both teams, they might fight or whatever. Then he kind of sees that fracas going on with Jonathan, and he looks up, and when he sees Terry O'Reilly go into the stands, he's like, oh, it's go time.
Yeah, there's no second thought, because he knows that it's essentially them versus everybody in that little audience.
Well, and if you think about it, and when you read and you watch this fight, these fucking fans and that's not even the word I should use. These fucking morons in the crowd are swinging their belts, their makeshifting kind of fucking weapons.
Well, that's what Milbury said too. Was just like as soon as he hopped that fucking. I say glass, but hopped that like little 1 foot thing that they had. He was just like somebody had their belt taken off and was swinging it, trying to hit people, and that's when you could see them really put their like, hey, we're professional athletes and we're gonna beat the shit out of you drunks, because they really were like double teaming guys and like throwing them to the ground and being like, yeah, we're gonna fuck you up.
I can guarantee you, if those fans hadn't been there, there might have been a couple of dudes fighting on the ice between the Bruins and Rangers.
Yeah.
Like if the program doesn't hit Jonathan in the eye, it's fine, right?
It's a normal hockey event.
Yeah, it's like a normal hockey fracas. They both go into the locker rooms and everything is fine. But like once you start participating, it's almost like with stand-up, like hecklers and shit, or like people talking during your set. Once you think you're part of the action and you're not, you are fair game. Not for anything like for stand-up, obviously not anything physical, but I mean like for sports, and especially like hockey players who kind of all know how to fight. Oh yeah.
Well, it's this thing where you have to defend yourself. And like you were saying with stand-up, when somebody interjects into your set and really like when they break that line, and there's no going back, you're just like, all right, man, you rang that bell, there's no unringing it.
And I'm not even talking about the physical shit with the belts. If you're pelting me with beer and like trash from the stands, you're gonna get an ass whooping.
I'm surprised they don't get that more, because I've always found that to be ridiculous, just like throwing shit. But I mean, it's so weird because it comes in and goes out. So I bet like after this, like we were saying, like after this brawl, I bet a lot of the professional organizations were like, hey, we need to step up a little.
Well, one thing they did was raise the glass
around
the entire ice, so the players A can't get out, but
more importantly
can't get in. More importantly,
but I'll tell you what, we haven't talked about the greatest moment in this brawl yet.
Okay, so here's where your little friend John Captain, comes into play. He's a New Jersey businessman. I'm gonna guess he's a Jersey Shore type person. He decides he wants a little bit of the action, so he goes kind of after Peter McNabb, a Bruins player. McNabb works his ass over and holds him down. And who joins him in this fracas?
Mike Milbury comes up and he sees McNabb, and you could watch this because
future coach of the Bruins,
future coach and current analyst. So I mean, that's why Mike Milbury is awesome.
It's hilarious
because he really is a fucking hilarious guy, and he tells this story and it's great. So he goes and he was talking about how he almost wants to like embarrass this guy, because
which he should.
They could obviously beat the shit out of him, but he literally, and McNabb's kind of holding him down, and Mike goes over and rips his shoe off. He goes to like hit him, and he was like, I hesitated because I was like, am I really going to hit this guy with his own shoe? And then he realized, like, he was just like, I had this realization, like, we're all in the stands beating the shit out of fans. This isn't going to be a thing like people look back on. And he hit him, and then he goes, and then I threw the shoe on the ice because I felt like that was like the worst thing to do to the guy.
Yeah,
and
you like embarrass him. You don't pummel him.
Yep.
You just make him look like the pansy that he is.
And that's, I mean, it's probably the best, most iconic thing.
But he's literally raining down blows with a shoe, with
his
man's own
shoe.
What was it? Well, the shopkeeper and his son were a different story altogether. I had to beat them to death with their own shoes.
But that's exactly what it was.
I thought it was Wayne's World 2 when I fucking watched this brawl. It was awesome.
It's such an iconic moment that you have to go and watch. It is so ridiculous.
And they arrested a captain for... what's it called? Disorderly conduct. Yeah, which made it even more hilarious.
They ended up throwing it out, but they really tried. And then he actually tried to sue Milbury, and it got thrown out so fucking quick.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you tried to fight professional hockey players?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you mess with the bull, you get the horns. No. But, what was it? 18 Boston players went into the stands, which means the league has a little bit of a mess on their hands.
And this is what we were talking about, where everybody that was there, except for this one guy, probably thought it was going to be a hockey fight and it was going to be a normal situation. And then it degenerates into this absolute chaos so fast. That's what I find so fascinating is it really kicks off in like 2 seconds, and you see O'Reilly just going over, and you're like, holy shit.
And he went over like very angrily.
He was like, ready.
Give me a sec, guys.
No,
like,
he was so unbelievably ready. And that's the thing is I bet the Rangers were like, thank God, because O'Reilly was ready to beat some ass.
Yeah, he was ready to beat multiple Rangers, and they're probably imagine, we talked about it before. Imagine just being a Rangers player at that point.
I know.
Just like, well, get your popcorn ready.
Well, that's the thing is even when they come back on the ice, there isn't going to be that animosity that was there before.
Yeah.
It's got to be almost like a togetherness, like we're hockey players.
We're going to help you if you need help.
Exactly.
But obviously you don't need any help with the way
you
started pummeling the shit out of people.
I guess it was Captain's whole family. Did you see that? It was like his brother, his dad. They all got charged with disorderly conduct because they were that was the second group. So I think I couldn't get the first group. I don't know if he actually had a name. That's why I thought it was Captain. So he might not just be.
It just might be a crazy Rangers fan.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the second group where you see it kind of degenerate into this other brawl. You're like, holy shit. Yeah.
Well, and it's always the second guy that gets the worst of it, right? It's never the first guy. It's always like, who did that to me? And
it's true.
This guy over
this
here.
Fucking guy, yeah.
But, the league at the time, you have a fracas like this, nobody looks good. I mean, granted, I'll say it's more the fans' fault, but players shouldn't happen to be doing this, and while the league itself is trying to emerge from more of a niche sport at this point, like, outside of just the original 6 bruising realm, punishments have to come in some way.
Well,
right?
we were talking about this where everybody on the Bruins and a lot of people on other teams were like, why are they punishing them? That was their reaction when punishment started coming down. It was just like, wait, hold on. Why are these guys getting punished? And it was more of like, this is hockey. If that happens, we're going to beat some ass. Like, it's not like, why we don't need your protection almost.
Yeah, they were more or less upset that they were getting suspended as far as fined because all the players were fine.
Yeah, every single one was fine.
Cheevers. He was the only one that got out, and it kind of makes sense. How are you going to get into the stands with all that goalie equipment on?
Yeah.
But outside of that, fine them, obviously, but what was it? O'Reilly got suspended for 8 games.
Yeah, O'Reilly had the most because he was the first one to jump into the stands, which is
Milbury
and
McNabb got 6 apiece.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, every Bruin fined $500, which I guess in those days was actually a lot of money.
It was.
For salary-wise.
I just thought it was funny. If you look at the Brawl, and I wanted to bring this up. If you look at the Brawl, O'Reilly obviously should be suspended the most if people are getting suspended. He's first one in the stands.
Yeah, exactly.
McNabb and Milbury didn't do anything more than any other player outside of the ridiculous of the shoe, and they were like, look, we have to make a point here.
That's how you get noticed, though. Other teammates pummeling people, it's like, oh, they just used their fists. They didn't embarrass these people. It's like
something else that, and I know we kind of brought this up earlier with taking your skate off and stabbing him. The announcers were making some pretty good points. They said, all these guys have skates on their feet. This could get bad.
Well, and
think about
you can't
stepping outside. No, they're just like, and you see them falling and
Could you imagine though if they were in their actual shoes?
Oh man, it would have been.
It's hard to throw punches in ice. It's hard to do a lot of things in ice skates.
Yeah.
Especially when you're not on a fucking rink.
Exactly. When you're not on ice, you're on fucking whatever it is. It's probably different kinds of wood or whatever's in the garden at that point. But if you watch it, it is very much like
it's
they
like
fall
watching,
into people.
Yeah, it's like watching toddlers fight. Yeah. Almost. Only one toddler is angrier and larger than the other toddler.
And he rips off this toddler's shoe and beats him with it.
Well, that's always the stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself.
That's what Mike was doing.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then throws his shoe onto the ice.
What I found so fascinating about it, though, was I had read after this game took place, Boston won 10 of their next 13 games.
And that's without O'Reilly and I'm just saying, because these guys were important parts of their team.
Yeah, they're very good players.
They just got that.
Especially O'Reilly.
Yeah, they just got that jazzed up. You know what I mean? They just got that like into. I can't imagine that it really brought that team together because they had a good season that year.
Yeah, they really did. But it's just kind of one of those situations you think it's like, yeah, fuck around and find out.
No, seriously,
You know, like-
I'll never understand. I understand getting too drunk. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's one thing I understand. But if you watch this, the guy isn't too drunk. He's not like, fuck this. He's like, I'm gonna get into this fight with these professionals, and you're like, yeah, you got everything
I'm going
coming
to
to
use
you.
this throughout the entire series we do this, and I've probably even used a reference before on the podcast, is like there's cheeky and fun shenanigans, and then there's cruel and tragic shenanigans. We'll get into our other episodes how some of these events actually start with cheeky and fun shenanigans.
Yeah, really, though.
And then just devolve straight into crazy town, cruel and tragic. And this is definitely like cruel and tragic off the bat.
Yeah, there's
Like,
no cheeky shenanigans in this.
no, like
They're-
there's nothing you can really laugh at until the players get in the stands.
Yeah.
Like, which is crazy to think.
Well, it's just crazy, and I feel like we're reiterating it, but I always just find it so insane because I've never seen it happen. But like people trying to cross that line of
Yeah, like what goes through your mind?
Yeah.
Like what makes you say, this is a really good idea?
my
Like,
friends are going to be excited when we talk about this later. Be like, man, when you fucking
Remember
got
that time
involved,
you remember the time you got the shit kicked out of you with the clothes you were wearing?
and then you got all of us beaten up too. You remember that? Because we were literally standing right next to you. It was just like, that's what I felt like happened with the captain and his family.
All
because-
I thought was that Step Brothers line. Today I saw my son use a bicycle as a weapon. You screamed rape at the top of your lungs.
well,
He had the craziest
into-
look in his eye.
it turned into one of the most classic hockey brawls.
And it didn't even involve two hockey teams. It only
Exactly.
involved one hockey team.
That's my favorite part.
And you know what? Those Rangers fans got their just desserts,
Yes, they did.
in my opinion. But get ready for the next episode. It's coming.